Well, I am very excited to be here with Neil and Menzie of the Angelic Upstarts. Guys, thank you so much for being with us tonight here in Ventura, California. Doing a tour. Tell us a little bit about how the tour's been going so far here in California.
We started off in New York, and New York was fantastic.
Okay.
Then we moved on into Texas. Texas is a little bit of a strange place, I think. Strange for me.
Did you run into any trouble with the local authorities or anything like that?
Not the authorities, but I had a couple of sort of semi-deep conversations with sort of the redneck sort of populace, and
Gotcha. The Trump voters, that kind of thing. Okay.
I was totally unimpressed.
Okay. All right.
Well, there you go, you know. Yeah. Everybody's entitled to their opinion unless you force it on people with violence.
Definitely. Well, Neil, got to ask you the same question, man. The tour so far, what's been the reaction from fans? Good energy, good vibes?
Good energy, good vibes, like you say. Turn up, we always give 100%, and it doesn't matter how many's there.
Yeah.
Those people have given their time, which is the most valuable commodity going.
Yes.
And you've just got to go for it and give people a great night, you know.
Definitely. And you guys definitely went for it tonight. A lot of fans here, good energy, just wonderful, intimate club here in Ventura. It was a great show. And Menzie, I kind of want to, looking back on the history of the band, of course, going way back to 1977, around that time anyways. So many other bands that we've interviewed, The Damned, who else? That's all we've Subhumans. A lot of British punk bands really talked about, kind of formed around 1977. And were you a band that similarly, saw the Sex Pistols and got inspired, or what was the catalyst for the formation of the Angelic Upstarts back then?
The Clash.
The Clash. Okay.
Not the Sex Pistols.
Okay. Gotcha.
I didn't dislike the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
I thought they had their place, but the band for me, which inspired me.
Yeah.
And who basically I worshipped was the Clash.
Beautiful. And definitely was, I could see a lot of themes. Working class ethos, kind of social justice elements versus just pure nihilism and bullshit. Was that one of the themes that resonated with them? With you?
For me, it was about not being able to do anything but trying to do something, and being accepted just for trying. And I thought, I've got to try that. I've got to have some of that.
Yeah.
I've got to be like, I can not sing.
Yeah.
I can't sing, so I can do that. I can do that, you know.
Yeah.
And that was, but they had an edge. Don't get us wrong, right?
Yeah.
I never ever, right, started out to be political. I never ever started out to be involved in any sort of political movement.
Okay.
Never. Never. And I still to this day, right, don't think I was political. I got forced into a position where I had to make a decision, and I made that decision. And I stood by the decision, right? And I don't think I ever got more extreme or moved what they describe as further to the left. I think everybody else moved to the right, and I was still standing in the same position.
Gotcha. Well, Neil, in terms of your influences as well, you've been with the band for about 10 years, and back in the day, were you listening to the Angelics and just, what were some of your influences that got you?
It was originally, of course, when the Pistols came out and everything, there was the big baboosh, big explosion and everything, and I loved the anger, I loved the energy, but I didn't quite understand it. And it wasn't until the Upstarts came along, because we're from the same town, South Shields, and then I got it. It's everything, all the anger and the energy, everything slid into view, the songs that the Upstarts was writing about. And then it all just fell into place and clicked.
Wonderful.
And then that allowed us to understand the Clash and where they were coming from, because I love the Clash, I just love old punk, but for me, the Upstarts slid everything into view.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. Menzie, over the years, did you have an opportunity to collaborate with Joe and the rest of the guys from The Clash? What was your kind of personal relationship with those guys?
Right. To be perfectly honest, me and Joe fell out a couple of times. Okay. And luckily enough, we made up before he died. So I was actually over the moon with that. Wow. We did fall out a couple of times about various subjects. But he was a very laid back kind of guy, and he did give me some advice about me songwriting and everything, which I tried, and I totally failed.
Okay.
But
Could you share a little bit with that? Is it a trade secret? I mean, did he?
no, all
Did he
right.
say you got to rhyme?
No,
Do
no,
pentameter
no,
verse or something?
Not at all.
Okay.
What he said to me, right? He said that he admired me, right? But he thought I was too forceful, right, in me approach. He said, instead of hitting people in the face with bricks, why don't you stick pins in their eyes?
Oh, okay.
And I tried it,
Yeah.
and I failed.
Okay.
I've done a couple of songs which, in that vein, which I disguised everything, and you had to pick the message out,
Yeah.
and about one in about 100,000 picked the message out.
So it's kind of a needle in a haystack kind of situation for fans to decipher the subtleties of it. Okay. Gotcha.
So I failed, and I failed miserably. And actually, I wrote a song, right, called England, right, which even he didn't get. And he told us, right, the approach to it, and even he didn't get it. And we fell out about a couple of things he said about us, you know.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what you got to remember about Joe was, right, he was a public school boy. He lived on an allowance and everything, you know, and I was from a council estate. I worked in the coal mines, right, and I'm the first to admit, I'll put my hands up, right, I can't sing to save my life. But what I have, right, I have pride and I have passion. And I put that in it you seen tonight.
Yeah.
There's a handful of people here tonight. I'd done the same show tonight in front of 30 or 40 people than I'd do in front of 3,000.
Yeah.
I'd done exactly, well, you were there.
I saw it. You gave 110%. It was really evident to me, definitely.
I give exactly the same. It doesn't matter to me, right? If you've got something to say, right, and you convince one person, or you convert one person, right, in what you've got, the message you're putting across. If you get that message across to one person, you're successful.
Wow.
So I'm successful.
You were very successful indeed. Well, guys, switch it over to Neil. I mean, through the years, you guys have toured with a lot of other bands, collaborated in many respects. I wanted to ask you about, we talked about influences a little better earlier. I want to talk to you about collaborations. I mean, over the years, looking back on your history with the band, and of course, Menzies, the other bands you've performed with, that you've toured with, any sort of standout memories?
Standout memories. There's a band from LA who we've toured with just recently, the Generators.
Yeah.
Great band, great set of guys.
Yeah.
The shows that they put on, and there's the same sort of, they've got the same pride and the same passion that Menzies just talked about there, and they put it into it every show. And there's loads of bands like that that's out there, you know, that's maybe not as successful, and they're still going for it. You've got young'uns coming through, and I love seeing like young bands going for it, and older bands as well. I just love seeing that. I suppose it's a bit cheesy, but that flame's still burning, you know, and it's great to see. Definitely. So, and the audiences as well.
Kind of the next generation, not to be too cliched, but Mens, what about you, man? In terms of collaborations over the years, other bands, other kind of good memories of working alongside other artists?
I've worked with some very, very influential people. Dennis Bavell from Matumbi.
Okay.
Dale.
Yeah.
He was the drummer in Motley Hoople, and fantastic person. I've worked with Steve Levine.
Oh, okay.
I've worked with Pete Wilson, who also worked with the Jam. Talented kids, you know. Cool. I worked with a lad out of the Vibrators. The people who've influenced us, you know, maybe was a little bit derogatory about Joe Strummer, but I mean, I love the bloke. Maybe that's why I talk. But
it's really evident. It's all love, and sometimes the authenticity of talking about our loved ones. There's a realness to it, warts and all. That, you know, that's how we speak about friends and family sometimes. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I said when I started, I worshipped the ground he walked on, you know, and I just thought he was the greatest thing. His lyrics, everything, just hit everything for me, you know. I don't think there I mean, there was only one song I disliked, and that was Mensforth Hill, you know, which we fell out about.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you know, they were made up before he died, and I was really happy about that. You know,
That is wonderful.
so we're parted as friends,
Yeah.
which meant the world to us, because I would have hated to have gone without we're being friends, you know.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, we've done interviews with other bands. I will not mention any of them, but where some of the artists, you know, one member sadly passed away when the band was not in a good place, and there was always that regret of, man, I wish I had called him up, I wish. So to have the a nice resolution to that relationship is a beautiful thing, definitely. So wonderful.
Definitely.
I'm a big fan of the Young Ones, and I kind of have to ask about. I don't know if you are the TV show or not, but
Oh yeah.
yeah. I mean, of course.
I thought you meant the band. I was going to say I didn't know them. You know.
Mentioned the band, yeah. So of course, kind of the history of the soundtrack to the TV show. I'm familiar with the Cliff Richard version of the Young Ones, which Cliff Richard featured a lot in the show itself. But your version with the particular lyrics was the version that was basically covered for the theme song for the show. Did you have a personal kind of connection with the makers of the show? Did you get a chance to? No, not at all. Okay.
I had a
They stole it from you?
I had yes.
Oh, okay.
I had a personal connection with Cliff Richard.
Oh. Okay.
Not a very happy one, but
Okay, gotcha.
me and him appeared on a TV show, and we sort of fell out on television.
Really? Okay.
And then we fell out after the TV show.
All right.
And then they tried to make the piece, and it didn't go very well.
Didn't work out. Okay.
But the idea was, I'll tell you briefly, that we were on a TV show,
Yeah.
and they set us up to make a dick of myself, you know.
Oh, gotcha.
And they were in the green room, they were applying us with drink. And I knew what the score was. I was sitting next to a plant pot. I was talking, and I was just pouring the drink down into the plant, and then they were filling the drink up, and I was sipping it, and then when they weren't looking, pouring it down.
Oh, wow.
So they tried to get us drunk before, but I was stone cold sober, you know.
Oh, wow.
And then when we were on the show, he sort of fired up with all this singing. Boom, I was into him, you know.
Wow.
And I slaughtered him.
Wow. So it was a really bad reality TV show kind of setup, and I could imagine feeling kind of betrayed and just.
Oh no, I wasn't betrayed. I just thought something wrong here, you know. They don't ask me to be on a program with a person like this, you know.
Yeah.
And then when they, have another drink, and I thought,
Something's going on.
yeah.
Well, speaking of other names, Mincy, Morrissey, who I'm a big fan of, has definitely cited you and the Angelic Upstarts as a huge influence. And I kind of wanted to ask you about the connection between you and Morrissey. Seen some photos of the two of you together from, I think, like in the 94, 95 maybe era. What is the nature of your guys' relationship?
He just liked our brand of music, you know, and I think he admired our stance about everything, you know. And he came to a couple of shows and introduced himself, and we got on well. And he was what I would class as a complicated person.
Okay.
But he came across as very simple, if you understand me meaning. And I got on well with him. We talked about certain elements of music, and he really appreciated the Angelics, you know, and he thought, which I have to agree with, and not blow me on trumpet, that the Angelics were a great live band, and we are, you know. We're not the best, and you know, I'll go off what my dad says, you know. He said, you will never be, right, the greatest. He says, just try and be good. And that's all I demand of the band, that you be a good and you do your best. If you don't do your best, you don't fucking last long with me, you know.
That is true. Well, obviously, more than good for folks like Morrissey and many other people out there to credit the Angelic Upstarts as a huge influence. And one last question for you guys before we get going. When I've done interviews with other punk bands, just last night with Dave Dichter from MDC, Dick Lucas from Subhumans, a lot of folks, I like to check in with them about some of the themes that permeated some of their early work, particularly when talking about things that they were against, forms of societal oppression. Talked with Dave last night about homophobia and things like that were issues that he rallied against. Looking back on some of the themes that the Angelics sort of addressed in the early years, do you still feel the same way about some of those forces of oppression, some of those things in society that we should still sort of stand up against in terms of economic inequality, things like that?
Certainly the police and the government, certainly.
Yeah.
You see, somebody once said, I'm not, I think it was a famous American, was it Jefferson Davis or somebody said, the government, right, should be afraid of the people, right? Not the other way around,
Yeah.
We shouldn't be afraid of the government, and also, right, we should respect the police, right, not be feared of them, right? We shouldn't be. And I'd like to think, when I was saying I was never political from the start, right? I wasn't really anything from the start, right? And I think at the start, I was as bad as anybody for being homophobic, right?
It was very, very common in society, but also even in punk scenes early on, yeah.
Yeah, and I put my hands up. I wasn't born political, right? And I wasn't born to be anything. I progressed. And I'll tell you what person in music, right, who I have the utmost respect for and who was gay, right, was Tom Robinson. And I spoke to Tom Robinson a few times, and we went into a great depth, right, about homosexuality, And he was one of the ones who really changed my mind, And I thought to myself, just a minute, these homosexuals, right, are oppressed the same way as punks are, And in the same respect, right, you had to look at other ethnic groups, then you looked at blacks, and you thought, I watched a film the other night, and it was on the plane, and I'd always wanted to watch it, and it was that Straight Outta Compton.
Yes.
And I thought to myself, I was watching it, and I thought, the similarities, right, between the Angelics and them kids is virtually, right, identical, and they just had a different way of seeing it, that's all. And I thought, if I had lived in their neighborhood, right, I would have been in one of them type bands, without a doubt, Well,
what you have to say is something that my ears are receptive to. So, guys, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And definitely check out this band on tour. Really excellent. You want to check them out. Thanks again, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.